Rev up your engines! Got your tamale 467 says Ford Lightning pickup truck. Got hit by lightning. A little irony there. The problem is, lightning is like millions of volts. And if your truck got hit directly, you're going to have so many electronic problems, it's going to make your head spin. You got a truck I should say, that, basically it's 12 volts and all the computer system works on a 5-volt reference signal. You get millions of volts. All bets are off. Now, I've never actually seen someone fix a vehicle like that because there are generally so many things wrong. It's a modern enough vehicle, everything's computerized, that I guarantee you're going to have to replace probably most of the computer modules, the body control module, the ECM, the main computer, and you're probably going to have sensors that are shorted out all over the place. Now, if you got full coverage, I guarantee the insurance company's going to total the stupid thing. It's just going to be the way that it goes. But let's say you don't have insurance and you're going to try to fix it. Well, good luck is all I can say. Start checking for blown fuses, melted wires. I guarantee you're going to need a new main computer. Say you put a main computer, get a program, at least you get it running. Then you could start checking all the other sensors one at a time. But from my experience, when they really get hit by lightning, they're not worth fixing on a modern car. The older ones, sure, because the older ones didn't have computers. Carburetor, mechanical fuel pump, wires might have gotten sheared, melted, you can replace them. But on a modern car, there's just too much stuff that can go wrong if your lightning gets hit by lightning. Melissa M says, hey, I'm looking to buy a commuter car. I don't know where to start. I got $2,500 for a down payment and like a fuel-efficient car with a nice interior. I was using a used Lexus, but not sure how gas-friendly they are. I also know I do not want a Prius. Any suggestion? Yeah, the Lexuses are good cars, but they tend to be more gas-hoggy because they're a heavier luxury car. They can be good cars. You can always pay a lot more for a Lexus, though. You can't beat something like a Toyota Corolla or a Camry. If you want a fancier car, get a Camry. There's a billion used ones out there. Now realize you're talking about a down payment, too much money. When you buy used cars on payments, they generally charge you 2 to 3 times what the car's worth. But on the other hand, if you're talking about a brand new car, put it down on a Toyota Corolla and just buy a new Corolla. Or if you don't mind the price, buy a new Camry. They're nice cars. The Camry is a lot more luxurious, and if you like the Lexus, then you'd probably be happier with the Camry than you would with the Corolla, which is the lower level car. The Camrys ride a lot nicer. Caveman Luke says, Scotty, I got a 2016 Dodge Journey with 48,000 miles, getting a good deal for a 2014 Highlander with 60,000 miles. Should I make that trade? Hey, if that trade is even, make it really fast. But of course, the Highlander, you want to get it checked out because you can't trust anybody these days. Maybe it was wrecked, flooded, stolen. You want a mechanic to check it out. And if the mechanic says it's a good car, definitely trade it. The Dodges are pieces of junk. The Highlanders are great vehicles. But trust no one, because a lot of times people have a flooded vehicle, say that Highlander was flooded out. You don't want to buy a vehicle that was flooded out. Even if it's running okay now, the water is insidious, especially if it was salt water like in New Jersey or the Texas coast. Salt eventually corrodes all the electronics and it turns into an endless pile of money pit where you just throw it in and there's nothing left. Mechanic checks his Highlander, says it's good, and the guy's dumb enough to trade you a Journey for that? Take it, take it. Even if you got to pay a little bit of money, you'd be much happier with a Highlander if the Highlander checks out. But like I say, don't trust anybody, have it checked out. Christian P1 says, I got an 06 Chevy HHR 2.2-liter engine, 164,000 miles. When I fill it up, it starts off for a second and it'll kill it, like I turn it off. Now, I do have a small evap leak and a gas smell. I don't know if these are connected. Well, they very well could be connected. If you fill a car up and then it starts to run rough, that generally means you have a problem in the evap system, and as it says, you got a small evap leak. The way it's supposed to work is when you refill your car with gas, all the air in a gas tank has to go somewhere. In the olden days, it's just vented to the atmosphere, which is pollutant. They don't like it. So today, all that air has to rush through the evap system. Then it's supposed to go through the charcoal canister where the hydrocarbons are filtered out, and then air comes out of the evap canister vent valve. It's supposed to open. Odds are that system's not working right, because if it's not venting, it will fill everything up with this gas vapor. So then when you start up the vehicle, it runs rough and kills itself because it's flooding the engine out. And then once you get it running, you rev it up, it runs perfectly fine. You definitely got a problem in the evap system. I would start with, of course, finding where that leak is. But maybe the leak is in the evap canister vent valve, and I would just change that out right away. And pray it is a Chevy HHR, one of the worst vehicles Chevrolet ever made, that it's not an electronic computer fault that's not opening the valve up, because that can be absolutely hellacious to figure out what's wrong on the electronic systems on those things. Legend A says, hello, I got a 2005 Accord, 155,000 miles. Something's leaking from the top of my transmission. I found the leak. That's the transmission vent. Automatic transmissions have a lot of fluid in them. There's got to be something that lets it vent. Otherwise, it would suck the seals in and out and blow the seals and leak fluid all over the place. You now have fluid coming out of there. Now, that generally means that you're getting a buildup of pressure inside the transmission. Something is going wrong. It looks like a pretty old vehicle. Me, I'd say change the filter and fluid and see what happens. Sometimes it's as simple as the filter's clogged up. But if it continues to do it, even after doing that, personally, I'd live with it as long as it runs okay, because a lot of times that's just a sign of severe wear and it's building up more pressure than it should. And eventually the thing could wear out, but to rebuild a transmission, it looks like an old vehicle. It's probably going to cost you 2-3 times what the vehicle's worth. And if it shifts okay, I've seen them do that for years. I got customers, 30-year-old ones. Yeah, a little bit of oil comes out. Oil's cheap, add a little bit in when it leaks out rather than rebuild a transmission. Toyota 21061 says, what makes my 1999 Camry crank so long before it starts? You get a car, you crank, won't start. Johnny, you're either not getting the right spark or you're not getting the right fuel. Now that's a Camry. My experience with those, it's always a fuel problem. Change your fuel filter. Could be a clogged fuel filter, right? It also can be the fuel pump starting to wear out. It's an old vehicle. But from my experience with Camrys, sometimes those pumps last 300,000-400,000 miles. It's often dirty fuel injectors. Start it, it needs extra fuel. If it doesn't, it won't start. Keep cranking, and eventually it gets enough to start and run. My advice is start with some fuel injector cleaner in a gas tank, a couple bottles. If that doesn't work, take it to a mechanic like me. We can analyze the data when it's cold. Leave it overnight so we can see what it's like when the crank's cold. And if we see that everything else is working right, that the computer is commanding the spray to the injectors correctly and everything, we would hook up a pressurized cleaner and pressure clean the injectors to get any crud out. And then if that works, great. I've seen that happen a lot. Now, it's so old, sometimes you got to put in remanufactured fuel injectors because they're just flat worn out and they can't spray right when they're cold. But a lot of times on those, hey, clean them. And then they're cleaned out really well. A lot of times then it'll start perfectly fine, because it's almost always you're not getting enough fuel with one of those things. And a good test for that is some morning, if it cranks too much, stop cranking it. Take the air filter out. Spray some starting fluid right in the engine when you crank. If it starts right up, you know you're not getting fuel. Make it Megan 30B says, I got a 2015 Chevy Silverado. The engine won't crank and it shows no communication. Here's something that I always try myself first. If you got no communication at all, make sure there's no blown fuses. Start unplugging sensors one at a time. And if all of a sudden, after unplugging one, you have communication, it means that particular part is bad. Let's say you unplug the body control module, and all of a sudden you look at your scan tool and now it's communicating. That means you got a problem in the body control module. I did fix one of these a couple months ago, and it turns out it was the main computer. It's a very common problem with GM products. They make their stuff like junk. Their electronics are low quality. Unfortunately, you can't test the computer that way. Because if you unplug the computer, it's always going to say no communication, because it's got to communicate with the computer. And if you unplug it, whether it's good or bad, it's still going to say no communication. It took me a long time to figure out that it was the main computer. But, you know, the last thing you want to do is unplug the computer, because every time you unplug that, you're immediately going to get no communication. Now, let's say you got an electrical short that shows something's draining your battery. Yes, then you can unplug the computer, and if the drain goes away, you'll know the drain is in there. But that won't help with no communication, because as soon as you unplug the computer, you're going to get no communication. Sad but true. It can be complicated fixing electronic problems on GMs. The guy whose Jeep says, Scotty, help, I got a 1998 Grand Cherokee. It'll just shut down randomly. I changed the alternator because it was going to 19. Yeah, 19's too high. There's definitely a problem there. Distributor cap, ignition coil, but it still will die. Change the fuel filter, pressure test the fuel pump. Weak pump can do that. Comes and goes, right? Now, if that all checks out okay, from my experience with those, it's a 98 Jeep, often the main computers go bad. Now, even for a mechanic, it can be absolute insanity to figure out if a computer's gone bad. I've got books, and if you read them, there'll be like 20 pages of how to test the computer, and gives you all these tests, and it says in the end, if you find nothing wrong with these tests, replace the computer. So, it's not that simple to do, and you can't replace the computer yourself anyways, because if you do, the car won't start. It has to be reprogrammed to be accepted. You need a fancy computer. You need access to the software. You're going to have to pay a mechanic for that. So, check the fuel pump pressure, change the fuel filter, and if it's not that, you're probably better to have a mechanic check it out, because checking out a computer is not an easy thing to do. It's very hard. But they do go bad all the time in those Jeeps. They're just crappily made. What? It's 22 years old, so odds are it's probably the computer from my experience with those things. Raven92 says, I got a 97 Toyota RAV4 manual transmission. The reverse lights don't work. The bulbs are fine. I checked the fuses and they're fine. How can I fix it? Can I bypass it? If on a Toyota they don't work, odds are the switch is bad. I would just jack the thing up in the air. You can turn the key on. You don't have to start it. Turn the key on, put it in reverse. See if power is going to that switch and then coming through the switch and going back. Odds are you got power going to the switch with nothing going out because the switch is bad. It's a 97. It's what, 23 years old. Probably worn out the backup light switch. Now, if the switch is working but they still don't work, then on the part of the switch that gets power when you do back up, and then when you put it in neutral, doesn't have power, just run a wire from there to the backup lights. Easy enough to do. This is almost always the switch on those things. They finally go bad in standard transmissions. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.